To the public, a zoo is a place of education and entertainment, but to the permanent inhabitants, it's home. In the past few years, living standards at Taronga Zoo in Sydney have been rising at a dramatic rate. Zoo administrators are reducing the barriers between their exhibits and the public and displaying them in settings as close as possible to the natural environment. As if inspired by the Opera House, an exciting new piece of architecture at the zoo is home for about 80 forest birds. 2 parabolic arches support the netting of a huge walk-through aviary. Visitors are able to see the birds in a rainforest environment, enjoying a life of comparative freedom. But although the modern aviary might seem like a home away from home, it does have distinct limitations. The ultimate in zoo living, of course, is to be completely free, like the ibises, experimental zoo exhibits without cages. The ibises at Sydney Zoo could fly to Queensland's Gold Coast or to a swamp in Victoria, but they rarely stray more than a mile or 2 from the zoo. The Liberty flock consists of 14 white ibises and 5 straw-necked ibises, and they're typical of those found in marshes, swamps, fields and riverbanks in most parts of Australia. They're among the most graceful and decorative of Australian birds. The free-living ibises are on equal terms with the silver gulls, pigeons and swallows that have no official connection with the zoo, but take advantage of the pleasant environment and plentiful supply of food. The ibises take their regular meals with the Chilean flamingos, which have considerably less freedom. The flamingos and the ibises get along quite well together. They're distant relatives. The birds generally return to the flamingo pen in time for the main meal of the day at 11 o'clock each morning. The food is a mixture of meat and crushed grain, and although it's quite adequate, the ibises supplement their diet with foraging expeditions along the harbour foreshores. In flight, the ibis is magnificent. Neck extended, legs trailed behind the tail feathers, and rapid wing beats alternating with long glides. The success of the zoo experiment has been confirmed by the fact that the ibises have begun breeding, a rare occurrence for the species in the Sydney metropolitan area. The few other flocks of ibises around parks in Sydney generally fly to waterland areas outside the city to breed. The zoo ibises owe their liberty to the curator of birds, Mr. Kerry Muller. He talked about it with Jim Revitt.
Well, we feel that the best type of exhibit you can have in a zoo is the one that's most natural, in which the birds and the animals appear as they do in nature. And so we felt that what could be more natural than a bird or an animal is completely at liberty. And with this particular type of bird, we felt it was possible to, by conditioning and training, to keep them within the zoo grounds merely by feeding them and adjusting them to the area.
How long did this take?
Well, we got our first birds about 2 years ago. These were young birds. They've been raised in the Healesville Sanctuary in Victoria, where they have a flock of wild birds for several years. So they were sort of used to a zoo environment. And what we wanted to do is get young birds that weren't already set in their ways and weren't used to a particular environment. Then what we did, we got them in and we clipped the wing feathers on one side, and we put them in the area that we wanted them to stay in, for instance, the flamingo area here, or the new duck ponds, and we fed them. And then as they molted the next year into their adult plumage, well, they were able to fly because they had new feathers then.
And they've been staying around the zoo ever since?
They stay very well. As I've never seen them outside the zoo except to circle over the harbour on a windy day. And we were even more successful than we thought because they've already raised a young one this year.
Do you think this sort of thing can be extended to other birds?
I think it can be. We're presently initiating a program for the Australian brush turkey, which is getting a bit rare in the rainforest because it's hunted so extensively. And we have one now that has a mound in the zoo grounds. We hope to extend it to other native species that are found in the area.